They called me Ghost because I had nothing and no one saw me coming. No money, no degree, no backup. But I came to this city to prove the American dream ain't dead. It's just hiding behind blood, hustle, and broken glass. People used to call me Ghost. Not 'cause I was quiet or creepy, or anything like that. Nah, it was 'cause I came and went and nobody noticed. Like I wasn't even there. When you grow up in a nowhere town with a nothing name, you learn how to disappear real quick. And I did. For a long time. But that wasn't the plan forever. I stepped off the Greyhound with $37 in my pocket, a duffel bag that smelled like wet socks, and a chip on my shoulder the size of the damn moon. The bus station reeked of old coffee, piss, and dreams that got left behind. It was beautiful. New York City. The big one. The hungry one. I was 23. No college degree. No family. No job lined up. No friends. No backup. Just me and this little fire in my gut that kept whispering, we ain't dying broke. People talk about the American dream like it's dead. Like it died with our parents or something. Like success is only for people with connections, trust funds, or a LinkedIn account. Screw that. I came to prove something. Not just to the world, but to myself. I crashed at a 24-hour diner for the first night. Spent $5 on a burger and nursed that coffee like it was gold. The waitress was sweet, older, wore too much makeup. She called me Han. I told her I just got into town, looking for work. She laughed and said, "You and everybody else." She wasn't wrong. For the next 2 weeks, I slept in the back booth when nobody was looking, washed up in gas station bathrooms, and asked every bodega, deli, and corner store if they needed help. Nothing. Either I was too young or not from around here. Like that mattered. But then came Carlos. Carlos ran a junkyard in the Bronx. He was tough, built like a fridge with tattoos crawling up both arms. I met him when I offered to sweep up broken glass outside his gate. Didn't ask for money, just wanted something to do. He looked at me like I was nuts, but let me do it. After 3 days, he tossed me a work glove and said, "You want to earn $20? Help me move this engine." That's how it started. I hauled scrap, dug through piles of rusted metal, and loaded trucks in the dead of winter with fingers so cold I couldn't feel the bones anymore. But I didn't complain. Every dollar went into a jar. I didn't buy new clothes, didn't go out, didn't even own a phone. Carlos started calling me Ghost. Said I just showed up out of nowhere and worked like hell. Said I was like one of those stories you hear but never believe. That stuck. And I liked it. Ghost. No past. No limits. Just forward. Carlos didn't ask questions and I didn't give answers. That's how we kept things simple. I worked. He paid. In that junkyard, I learned more about survival than any classroom could have taught me. There was something pure about it. Brutal, yeah, but honest. Junk is like life. Most people see a rusted-out shell and walk right past. But if you look close, really dig, you'll find something worth keeping. Something someone else missed. I started noticing patterns. What sold fast, what sat too long. Which days the scrap buyers came by. Which dealers paid the best. Carlos didn't care much. He was old school, did it all by feel. But I saw numbers. I started keeping track. I'd write down prices on the back of receipts, scribble notes in a pocket notebook I'd found in the trash.
Copper wire?
Hot. Car batteries. Even hotter. Catalytic converters? Jackpot. After a few months, I wasn't just hauling scrap. I was sorting, stacking, organizing. Carlos liked that. Said I had hustle. Said I could have gone to business school. I told him I barely finished high school. He laughed and said, "School don't teach what you got. You got the itch. The grind." Damn right I did. But I didn't want to haul junk forever. I wanted more. At night, I'd walk the streets, eyes open. Not for trouble, though I found some of that too, but for ideas. I watched how people moved. The guy selling bootleg DVDs out of a shopping cart. The hot dog vendors working double shifts. The Uber drivers sleeping in their cars. Hustlers. Survivors. Like me. One night, I met this dude named Kenny. Ran into him behind a bodega after I saw him trying to fix a busted electric scooter. I asked if he needed help. Ended up talking for 2 hours. Turns out Kenny bought broken tech and flipped it for cash. Phones, speakers, drones, scooters, you name it. All off Craigslist, pawn shops, and the trash. Said he'd made 15 grand that year just fixing and reselling. I was hooked. My brain started spinning. Junkyard by day, Electronics by night? I could do both. The next week, I bought a busted iPhone off a guy on the street for $20. Took it to Kenny's tiny apartment in Harlem. He showed me how to open it, clean it, replace the screen. 3 hours later, it looked brand new. Sold it on Facebook Marketplace for $100. Profit, $80. It wasn't a lot, but it was something. It was mine. I started prowling for deals every night. Learned to spot scams. Negotiated like a pit bull. Bought parts in bulk off shady sites. Taught myself repairs through YouTube and trial and error. Burned my fingers. Fried a few phones. Lost money. Made it back. Then doubled it. Before long, I had a little setup in the back of the junkyard, stashing boxes of broken devices behind stacks of tires. Carlos didn't mind. Said it was entrepreneur shit. Whatever that meant. But it worked. By the end of the year, I had $8,300 in a shoebox under a pile of scrap. No bank account. No ID. Just cash. Pure, crinkled proof that the dream wasn't dead. It was just sleeping. And I was about to wake it the hell up. I stopped thinking like a worker and started thinking like a builder. $8,000 in cash might not sound like much in a city that charges $1,900 for a closet. But to me, it was power. Not enough to buy peace, but enough to build a war chest. Enough to test the water before diving into something bigger. I started flipping everything. Phones, laptops, Bluetooth speakers, even a drone I found in a busted box marked junk. Cleaned it, charged it, tested it, sold it to a college kid for $250. Paid $20. That kind of return made me feel like I'd found a cheat code. But the real kicker? Electric scooters. City was swarming with them. Bird, Lime, private brands. They broke down easy and people didn't want to deal with repairs. I'd buy the busted ones off Craigslist or eBay $50, sometimes $40, and patch them up with cheap parts from China. In 2 weeks, I sold 6 scooters for $300 each. Boom.
Profit explosion.
I had to move quiet though. I wasn't licensed. I wasn't legit. Hell, I didn't even have an LLC. But I didn't care. I was in the zone. Moving units, stacking bills. I kept the grind dirty and lean. Didn't post too much online. Word of mouth only. My spot in the junkyard started looking like a little Frankenstein lab. Cords, screens, soldering kits, WD-40, boxes of parts. Carlos shook his head every time he saw it. You turning my place into Silicon Valley? He joked. Nah, I said. Just trying to turn trash into cash. I wasn't sleeping much. I'd work 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the yard, scarf down a sandwich, then fix tech, till 2 in the morning. Rinse, repeat. I was wired off ambition and dollar signs. Every time I closed a deal, it felt like a shot of adrenaline straight to the soul. But of course, nothing good lasts without friction. One night, I came back to the junkyard and my little stash had been hit. Boxes gone. Tools scattered. Shoebox with $3,000? Empty. Someone had broken in, no cameras, no witnesses. Just silence and the sound of my own blood boiling in my ears. I stood there for 10 minutes, jaw clenched, fists tight, staring at the mess like I could will it all back into existence. Carlos came out, saw my face. He didn't say anything for a while, just lit a cigarette and watched me try not to break. Then he said, "This city'll test you, make you think it hates you. You gonna let it win?" I didn't answer. I didn't cry either. I just started over. Next day, I hit the street harder. Sold everything I could. Did small repairs for cheap just to rebuild. It took 2 months, but I got back on my feet. This time, smarter. I rented a tiny storage unit in Queens. Kept my stash there. Got a burner phone. Created a fake name, Eli West, for Craigslist deals. People trusted a name with a last name. Funny how that works. By the end of the second year in the city, I had saved over $25,000. All from trash. I wasn't rich yet. Not even close. But I'd done something nobody thought possible. I created value out of air.
No loans.
No help. Just sweat, smarts, and spite. And I was just getting started. It was around this time I realized something wild. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building. That's a weird shift when it hits you. First, you're just trying to eat, trying to stay warm, trying to not die in the cold. Then, slowly, quietly, you're making moves with purpose. You're not just dodging the punches, you're throwing a few of your own. I kept hearing people online say, "Make it official. LLC this. Scorp that. tax write-offs, credit lines. I didn't know jack about that stuff. But I figured if I could rebuild an iPhone from pieces, I could figure out how to start a business. I stayed up nights watching videos, reading forums, even called a local CPA who tried to charge me $500 just to advise me. Pass. So I did it myself. Registered Ghost Tech LLC on a borrowed library computer with a fake business address and my real name. Cost me $145. Hurt like hell to spend that money. Felt like throwing it into a fire. But when that confirmation email hit, man, I felt legit. Didn't mean anything changed right away. Still ran everything solo. Still fixed phones and scooters by hand. Still met buyers on sidewalks and inside Dunkin' Donuts. But having that name, Ghost Tech, gave me a little armor. A little pride. I could feel the ground shifting. Then I got my first big break. I was in line at a UPS store, mailing off a refurbished tablet, when the guy behind me started asking questions. "You flip stuff?" he said, nodding at the box. "Yeah," I said, cautious. "You do bulk?" I paused. "Depends." Turned out the guy's name was Malcolm. Drove trucks for a logistics company, but on the side, he bought pallets of Amazon return items from liquidation auctions. Most of it was junk. Broken electronics, old chargers, cracked screens, used printers. He didn't have time to fix them, but I did. We talked for 10 minutes. Swapped numbers. 2 days later, he rolled up with a van full of busted tech and a handshake deal. I fix and flip, we split profits down the middle. It was chaos. We had no system, no contract, just hustle. But it worked. Over the next 4 months, I turned Malcolm's trash into treasure. We flipped speakers, tablets, routers, headphones, hell, I even sold a microwave on OfferUp. Cleaned everything, tested what I could, listed it all under Ghost Tech. We started moving hundreds of dollars a week. Then thousands. I remember the first time I made $10,000 in a single month. I stared at the number like it was a lie. Like the screen might blink and say, "Just kidding." But it was real. I started hiring help. Quiet kids like me, no degrees, no fancy resumes, just hungry. I trained them myself. Paid cash. No questions. We worked out of an abandoned laundromat I rented under the table from a guy named Tito who lived upstairs. No heat. Flickering lights. But it was ours. And for a while it felt like nothing could stop us. But life don't climb in a straight line. The higher you go, the more eyes find you. And some of those eyes ain't friendly. One day, I came back from a sale and the laundromat was empty. Not just clean, cleared. Shelves gone. Parts gone. Cash box gone. Even the damn folding table. Like ghosts had robbed the ghost. Turns out one of the new guys, a kid I trusted, trained, bought lunch for, snaked the keys and wiped us out while I was gone. Just like that, half my business evaporated. I sat alone in that cold, empty room, staring at the dust where the cash box used to be. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. My mind just kept looping. He took it all. Everything we built. But after the rage passed, a weird calm set in. Not peace. More like clarity. The kind of stillness you only get after you've been hit so hard, your body stops reacting. I could either fold or evolve. So I made a list. Not of what I lost, but what I learned. 1. Don't trust fast smiles. 2. Keep your systems tight. 3. Stay lean but not loose. 4. Get paper trails. Even for street deals. 5. Always have a backup. The next day, I locked the laundromat. Didn't call the cops. Didn't even try to chase the kid down. I figured karma's got a better aim than me. Instead, I built version 2.0. I moved into a 200 square foot office space in Queens.
No windows.
Leaky roof. But this time, everything went under my LLC. I opened a business account, hired a bookkeeper off Fiverr, set up inventory tracking on a janky laptop I'd rebuilt twice already. I tightened the operation like a drum. I called it the shadow flip. Everything low profile, private pickups, cash heavy. Social media, minimal, word of mouth only. I worked with 3 people. Kenny from back in Harlem, a kid named Max who lived in his van, and Jay, a single mom who could solder blindfolded. Small, trusted, and sharp. We didn't just fix devices now, we built bundles. A phone, charger, earbuds, all matched and cleaned and boxed. Looked store-bought. Sold them as certified pre-owned tech kits. Moved them online, at flea markets, through barbershops, even a vape store in the Bronx. People loved the name. Ghost Tech sounded sleek, mysterious, like something realer than the big guys, but still smart. Money started flowing again. Then came the contract. One of Jay's cousins worked at a non-profit that ran tech literacy programs in public schools. They needed 100 tablets for cheap. Didn't have a big budget. Just needed them to turn on and hold a charge. Could I do it? Hell yeah, I could. I sourced 40 from Malcolm's Pallets, 20 off eBay, and the rest through a shady warehouse in Jersey that didn't ask questions. Spent 2 weeks straight reflashing OS systems, replacing screens, testing batteries. We hit the 100 mark with 12 hours to spare. Made $7,800 on that deal. And just like that, Ghost Tech wasn't a hustle anymore. It was a company. I printed business cards, got a little logo, started dreaming about stuff like payroll, health benefits, maybe even opening a retail spot. But I kept remembering one thing. Every time you climb a little higher, the wind hits harder. And just when things started feeling solid, they came knocking. Not cops. Not competition. Worse, the IRS. Came in a thin white envelope, like bad news usually does. Internal Revenue Service, Notice of Examination. I stared at it like it might burst into flames if I blinked wrong. I hadn't done anything illegal, per se, but I definitely blurred a few lines. Late filings. Weird expenses. Some cash deals I didn't log. A couple electronics bought under fake names. In the hustle, paperwork always came last. But now Uncle Sam wanted to talk. I called a lawyer, one of those guys that charge $250 just to pick up the phone. I told him the truth, mostly. He asked for every receipt, every form, every bank statement. I gave him a shoebox full of wrinkled invoices and a USB drive with a spreadsheet that looked like a math problem had a panic attack. He sighed. "This is survivable," he said. "Barely." For the next 3 months, I lived in stress mode. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Every time the phone rang, I flinched. I kept working, sure, I had to. But the weight of it was different now. It wasn't just about making money. It was about proving this thing was real. Legit. Survivable. The lawyer got things straight. We filed late reports. Amended old returns. Paid some fees. Took a hit, about $6,000 gone. Could have been worse. Much worse. But the message was clear. You want to play big? Play clean. So I leaned in. Ghost Tech went fully legal.
Prupe pairoi. Ein number.
Quarterly taxes. I hired a real accountant, not just a guy with a Gmail and a spreadsheet addiction. We filed trademarks. Got insurance. I even started using QuickBooks, which felt like giving my chaos a leash. And here's the twist. The more legit I got, the faster things grew. Schools started calling. Small businesses. One guy who ran a whole delivery fleet asked if we could maintain all his drivers' phones. Another client wanted us to refurbish laptops for remote workers. Word was spreading. We moved into a proper space, 1,200 square feet in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy, but clean. White walls, workbenches, a front counter. I paid Max and Jay hourly now, with W-2s and everything. Kenny handled sourcing and logistics. We even put a little neon sign in the window. Ghost Tech repairs. Fast. Fair. Real. Felt insane. I'd gone from sleeping in diners and scrubbing rust off car parts, to running a team, filing payroll, and having clients who wore suits. Some days I'd sit in the back office and just stare at the balance sheet. Me. The dude they used to call Ghost. No degree.
No connections.
Nothing but hunger and busted fingers. But success has a dark side. Nobody tells you that. You start to feel eyes on you. Not government ones, street ones. Old contacts. Jealous ones. People you left behind or outpaced. I started getting messages. Unmarked numbers. Weird DMs. One guy even showed up at the shop pretending to sell chargers, but he was scoping the place. I kept a bat behind the counter after that, just in case. Then one night the front window got smashed. Nothing stolen, just shattered. Like a warning. Carlos came to visit that week. First time in 2 years. He stood in the shop, arms crossed, nodding at the tools, the shelves, the whole setup. "You built all this," he said. "From junk." I just nodded. He pointed at the broken window. "That's the price. You build something big enough, people want to break it. Just to see if it bleeds." I didn't answer. Just taped up the glass and ordered a new pane. I wasn't gonna bleed. I was gonna scale. By year 4, Ghost Tech wasn't just a shop. It was a brand. We had 3 locations, Brooklyn, Jersey City, and a little spot in Philly that Max ran. Each one had the same layout. Clean, no flash, workbenches in back, Ghost Gold kits on display up front. Those kits bundled, refurbished devices with our guarantees sold like wildfire. Schools kept ordering. Delivery services. Even a hospital group reached out. I'd show up to meetings in hoodies and scuffed up sneakers, shaking hands with people who wore watches worth more than my car. But when I talked numbers, logistics, delivery time frames, they listened. Because I knew my game. Every damn inch of it. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. Never was. But I was the one who never stopped learning. I read contracts until my eyes burned. Sat in on Zoom calls about taxes, payroll, hiring. Got advisors. Found a mentor, an ex-CEO who saw something in my story. We started tracking profit margins down to the screw. Took out small business credit lines. Scaled up sourcing. We bought pallets of tech by the ton now. Hell, we even flew to Shenzhen once to meet a supplier face-to-face. The Ghost name carried weight. And then came the offer. It was a Tuesday. I remember 'cause the coffee machine was broken, and I was in a bad mood already. This guy walks in, button-down shirt, clean shoes, clipboard energy. Says he represents a tech logistics aggregator. Fancy name for a company that buys up small tech repair chains and rolls them into one national network. They wanted Ghost Tech, said we were undervalued, had authenticity, and a rare founder story. They offered $2.1 million. Cash. I laughed. Not because it wasn't tempting, but because I remembered the version of me that would have cried over $20. We didn't take the first offer. Or the second. I brought in lawyers, consultants, sat down with my crew. If we sold, I wanted them taken care of. I wanted freedom, but not at their expense. In the end, we sold a 60% stake. Deal closed for $4.8 million. I kept a controlling share, kept the brand, kept the name, but let the big guys handle the boring stuff, supply chain, HR, vendor compliance. Still walked into the shop. Still kept my office messy and my sneakers old. And one night, after the deal was done, after the checks cleared, I walked out onto the roof of the Brooklyn shop. Just me and the skyline.
No speeches. No champagne.
Just this quiet moment like, you did it. People say the American dream is dead. It's just not clean. It's messy. It's bitter. Cuts you. It robs you. Then it dares you to stand back up and take one more swing. I started with nothing. No school. No safety net. Just grit, bruises, and a belief that maybe, just maybe, I could turn the impossible into my reality. And I did. They used to call me Ghost. Now, they call me Founder.